What do you think they need to accomplish here in the first couple of quarters of the service?
Well, I think it's an incredibly fun offering. As we all know, the Disney brand is so incredibly beloved and well-known. They have audiences who love Star Wars, who love Marvel content, who love a diversity of the brands Disney have. So I think their primary move is really to capitalize on the audience who already loves their content and to bring it to them in a different format, obviously streaming, over their different screens, devices, and television. So they really need to ensure that they deliver that brand, and it'll be fun to watch as they're doing it at a very economical price point at $6.99 a month.
Should investors who own Netflix or Disney or both be on the lookout for higher churn and Netflix as a result of this?
Honestly, I think for consumers, this is just an opportunity for more choices, more diversity. Again, Disney's coming out at $6.99. Apple had launched their service at $4.99. A median Netflix plan is $12.99. So at this point, I don't know that for consumers it's an either or. It really is an opportunity to try different plans and add to them rather than having to remove one to add another. So it's really a great consumer proposition at this point where people really can sample multiple services instead of having to decide at this point.
Elizabeth, obviously Disney has probably more experience than anyone in creating content for distinct audiences. They have the audience recognition. I'm trying to find points of distinction, though, between the Netflix approach and what the advantages Netflix has, having been up and running in this area for a while. And I guess data would be one of them. As somebody who's created for Netflix, did you have a lot of exposure to the consumer data, their preferences, their trends? And does that help at all, or is that not much of an issue from the original content side?
Well, again, I think Disney is as aware of their brands and how they resonate with consumers. It's certainly part of why we're seeing them go direct to consumer. So understanding the information of why your brands resonate with different consumers, why Marvel films continue to do well, why would you make a Marvel television series? Certainly watching that information that you get over an internet service is going to help to have faster information, but I don't think there's anything new that Disney doesn't know. Their brands resonate, and that's why they're going to go direct to consumers. So what you look for when you're making a show is whether or not consumers really fall in love with it. Do they talk about it? Do they tell their friends? Do people get excited on a mass level? When The Mandalorian comes out, how is it going to resonate? I think we've heard a lot about it in terms of trailers, and it's out on the internet to see. Now we get to see how consumers react. Will they tweet about it? Will they tell their friends? Is it going to create a word of mouth that benefits Disney? And that's what each service has to think about when they're making content. How do you really continue to get word of mouth to increase the presence of your service?
Now, opportunity for streaming is more global for these streaming platforms, and you brought a bunch of international content to Netflix, like Sex Education, Alias Grace, and with an E. Have you found that strategy to be useful, and do you think that's applicable to all of the various streaming services that are currently either in the works to be launched or being launched today?
Well, I love that you asked that. Obviously, it is an area that I'm really passionate about, and what I do think is so exciting, you said it perfectly. The opportunity in streaming is a global opportunity. What you're looking for is an audience around the world to be attracted to your content. And Disney, for example, has incredible brands that have resonated in theaters globally. And now the opportunity to go to streaming, when you're on the internet, you can have a more segmented audience and look for differentiated types of content. So I think having global content, shows that potentially originate out of Spain, out of Brazil, out of Japan, out of India, really give you an opportunity to diversify the types of stories you're telling. And having different stories and different storytellers will inherently attract a diverse audience, which is what you're going to need to become a global presence. And I know Disney's talked about reaching 60 to 90 million subscribers in the next 5 years, I think, and 2/3 of that ideally outside the U.S. I think to do that, you really do have to have a diversity of content, just in terms of the types of stories you're telling, the types of storytellers you're employing.
Does that work for someone like Disney that has a younger demographic that may, find it a little bit more challenging to have, say, subtitles or dubbed voices, something like that?
I think it absolutely does. I think we've seen it to a degree when they've played even in their theatrical releases with things like Mulan and Coco and toying with different stories. There's always solutions to figure out dubbing. I think the U.S. audience in particular isn't used to watching dubbing, but there's no reason that can't continue to evolve. If there was, for example, a Farsi series that originated out of India, there's no reason it couldn't be dubbed back into English, especially if it was animated. So if anyone, I think Disney will learn to really excel at diversifying languages and origins of storytellers.
Finally, there's like this running a thesis that streaming television is now being used to sell other products, either park admission or merchandise at Disney, wireless services at HBO, Prime memberships at Amazon. But Netflix is just selling Netflix. I wonder, does that mean that they're going to approach the business differently than some of their rivals?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Carl, that every player in the streaming space has a different set of priorities for their overall business. And each of them, Disney obviously is thinking about themes, parks, and products and enhancing the overall Disney brand. Apple is quite consciously thinking about hardware. I think we see that from them offering their content free to anyone who is buying a new iPhone. As Amazon, as we all know, is being incredibly effective across a wide variety of markets. So each of them have different priorities. And as you'd said, Netflix at this point is a pure play streaming service who's simply thinking about how can you have incredible content to keep people streaming. So I don't know that any creates a worse or better proposition for consumers. They're all different opportunities that the creators are thinking about and how to capitalize on their businesses. But I think if anything, it's going to create a really fun, diverse amount of content. I didn't mention HBO Max. As we watch them come online, take the iconic HBO series and diversify those as AT&T is looking to figure out how to continue to grow their business. So everyone does have a different set of priorities, but I think that makes more opportunity than challenges.